no fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's gotta be biblical.
Hello again, welcome to Patriots across the pond and Frens, episode 30. Today we've got an amazing guest on, Mark Messina, also known as 8-Track. His company is Parallel 8 Media and his website is the 40kview.com. Mark's been awake for a long time, like Elisa and I have. He's also a stand-up comedian. He's pretty much followed Q from the start. He's done a lot of research into weather modification and creation, which we're going to talk about today. And Mark, like myself, does like to make up a snazzy little T-shirt. And we were talking about this earlier, but I just want to start with this because that is one of Mark's latest T-shirts. I don't know shit about fuck. Now, that is a crown splitter, but that is beautiful. We've got no swear jar on here, Mark. So thank you, sir, for coming on. How are you?
Oh my gosh. Only for you guys. It's 7:30 in the morning. I got my first iced coffee. If you know me, I'll usually go through a bunch of these during the day. So yeah, good morning to you guys. Well, good morning, Elisa. It's still morning for you. And Stu, I asked Stu before the show started, what time is it over there across the pond? And he said 2:30. And I said, so 1.5?
Yeah. Exactly that. And
I've learned a lot of pond expressions. And I find myself using them too, which is kind of cool. Like referring to people as mates now.
Yeah, I've got Burn noticed Tim is a good friend of mine, so I'm trying to pick up all that Aussie lingo on the huddle 2 weeks ago. I did like 10 clips of Aussie lingo. It's the best.
Yeah, I'm trying to teach Elisa a bit of Cockney rhyming slang at the moment.
Yeah,
so,
they do that in Australia too. You know, they've got their own rhyming.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, you're crazy.
Yeah,
so
it's
cool.
great. Yeah,
I teach them a little Sicilian, words and cursing and hand expressions. So,
yeah, I get it. I spend most of my life in New York, and I'm from New Jersey. We had this like Sicilian Yiddish combo too. We would say "Oi vez mia."
Yep.
Mia, like Italian, like Mamma Mia.
Yep. Oi vez mia. Yeah. You probably, there's a lot of like the Yiddish Jewish influence in this area. So
For
it's
sure.
hard to not, it all kind of comes together. Well, anyway, Thanks for being here so early because I know
my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
If we do another show in the future, we'll go a couple of hours later for you so I can get a couple of hours coffees in and stuff. We'll do that for you. All right. So, yeah, I suppose just to start off, Mark, do you want to sort of give a bit of your background, how you woke up, how you got into this movement?
Yeah, and it sounds like you did some of your research, so thank you. Yeah, it was 9/11. You know, I was living in New York City, and I was running a business, and I was sitting in my apartment, and I had a single employee. It was like an assistant, and I was in my 20s. So in New York City, you have long nights, right? That's the life back then. And so I wouldn't be up at office hours. I'd usually be up at like maybe 10 a.m. And so my assistant had a key. She'd come in. She had a desk. She'd man the phones and stuff while I was sleeping. And on 9/11, she starts banging on my bedroom door. Not obviously something she's ever done before. And I'm like, what's going on? She's like, a plane hit the World Trade Center. And so threw on the TV. I immediately went into sort of, I guess you could say, like a prepper mindset. And I told her, listen, you go home right now. I go stop at the grocery store, get some water and some dried goods, and go home and don't go anywhere. This is a thing. This is a big deal. And then I just I stayed glued to the TV all day. And I got an email. It was a group email to 20 people from my dear late friend Garth Feeney, who I went to college with, and then wound up working with him in New York after grad school. And we were all part of a big group of really close friends. And he was using his BlackBerry to email his secretary, and she was forwarding it to all 20 of us. And he basically said, hey, guys, just letting you know, I randomly had a breakfast meeting at Windows on the World today. And I'm here now. And he said, the loudspeaker told us that a plane just hit right below us, which obviously that's weird. You didn't see a plane hit below you. They told you a plane hit below you. So that was the beginning of planting seeds in my brain. Well, I don't want to start the morning dark, but for the next 45 minutes, he sent us an update roughly every 5 minutes. And the first 2 or 3 were okay. It started progressing to like, oh, hey, the elevator's not working. They're sending some firefighters up the stairs to get us out of here. We'll be fine. And then apparently the stairs have collapsed and the elevators collapsed. And then it went to smoke was filling the room, and it just got very, very bad. And we basically got a real-time play-by-play of his death. The last message came moments before the tower collapsed, and his secretary basically said, guys, he did send one more message, but it's too hard to read. I'm only going to send it to his parents. Oh, God. And with that, 20 people had instant PTSD, right? It was we sat there moments later, watched the tower collapse, right? And knowing he was there up top. And from that day forward, I've always been a questioner. Like I've always used Google back in the day. As a kid, I read about aliens and ghosts. That was sort of my introduction into the weird world. I remember being 8 years old and going to the library and finding books on how to know if there's a ghost in the room, right? And I would, was a little detective as a little kid looking for ghosts. And then the alien stuff always got me really interested at a young age, because as my degrees are in engineering and, kind of that science mindset, it was like, how could thousands and thousands of people across the US and even the world have the same experience of alien abduction if it's not real? Well, that put me down rabbit holes, because it's very easy with science to explain how thousands of people can have the same experience and it not be real. That's actually quite plausible and very easy to explain. So I was into all that stuff. So after I spent, the first 3 days glued to the TV, I heard all the inconsistencies in my brain, even though I was in, that hypervigilant, traumatic state. Yeah. Maybe that even made it so I heard everything. And I was like, they contradicted what they said yesterday. Wait, they had the metals guy live. He was like the head of the, New York City Metallurgical Union. And I remember him saying, listen, guys, I was just an employee when we built the tower. I was on that tower. It's OSHA standard metal, whatever. He's like, jet fuel at its peak can burn this hot. He goes, that steel won't even warp for it has to be thousands of degrees hotter. And I remember him saying that. And then I remember them shuffling him off the phone. Mm-hmm. And I think he got fired later or had to reverse his statement. But all of these things, I think, was it Dan Rather? I think he even used the words, kind of looks like a controlled demolition. And all of these things. A
lot of them said it, especially on the local news. You got local news, like we got local news. And they said a lot more, let's say, seat of the pants of what they felt and what their instincts were telling them than the national. And then it just disappeared and you never heard it.
Yep. And it also kind of gave me that 40,000-foot view of how so many people can be involved in a cover-up. Because for the last 26 years, I've been on a soapbox. I've been trying to wake people up. And the first sticking point for most people is, how could so many people be in on it, right? They don't get that. Well, money is one way and fear is another. So clearly, all of those news people who eventually became somewhat culpable didn't know from the start, right? They weren't read in. because they would not have said that.
It's like
But
it's like the Kennedy assassination. The people on the ground was saying things and then they quieted them and shut them up and took the films and all this other stuff. And you say, how are they in on it? They weren't.
Right, but you don't think that after Dan Rather and anyone else who said those words, controlled demolition, you don't think they got a call on that little red phone that goes to the guy above the guy above the guy, and they said, do not say that again. And they know you don't have to say anything else. They know, like, now they're in on it. And if they keep their mouth shut and they don't tell anyone, guess what? They're culpable. They're making a big salary. They're a famous person. When that red phone rings, you know your career could be over. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. So from that day forward, I began studying 9/11, the physics of it, like every single day. Had problems with family and back then because I sounded crazy. You sound like a tinfoil hat person. Like, I'm like, listen, guys, you put me to a really good college, right? I studied engineering. The physics of this are impossible, right? But, you know, I didn't get vindication for 15 years, maybe, is when people really started to accept it. Now, you know, nobody thinks, well, I shouldn't say nobody. Most people don't think I'm crazy now, but I spent the better part of 20 years, you know, being called a weirdo.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm sorry, Stu, but as people who were in New York at the time, like, I would love to talk to you because I lost people. It was a very different experience being in New York. People, like, I don't know if you know people, they walked home from downtown all the way to Long Island on the adrenaline. Like, we could probably have a whole show just on the experience of what that was like, because most people now talk about how it's morphed into just about, you know, they attacked us, you know, as opposed to, or the conspiracy of it, rather than like, what was that human experience that the smell, right? Remember the smell?
I'll never forget the smell. I'm going to be 53 in like a month and in like 6 weeks. To this day, I could be anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. And if there's like a factory nearby and it has that smell, because some factories do, I'm immediately brought right back to that day. I lived on the Upper West Side, 72nd and Broadway by the river. The air flows up the river. So it was like 6 months where I smell that every single day.
Yeah.
That is locked.
I was in Western Nassau and we smelled it. So I can't even imagine the intensity, you know, of being in the city. But anyway, I digress with this, but it was needless to say. And then what sticks out in my mind, the way the smell stands out, is I still get like jarred when I hear the bagpipes, because we lost so many firefighters from Long Island every single day. There were like 3 and 4 funerals with because I'm right near the church, the bagpipes and it was just, but you have like two minds. You have like the inquisitive sort of, I don't want to say conspiracy, but the investigative part of you, which is very cerebral. And then you've got this whole emotional part that was affected during it, and phone calls and hearing last words. And so it's, it was something.
Yeah, I just saw in your comments on the Rumble stream, Rebel Life mentioned architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see it, but several months ago, I had an interview with Richard Gage, who is the founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. And that was, well, first of all, incredible man. That was a highlight for me. I had spent, at that point, it was 25 years, right, studying this. And I've never stopped studying that event. Even in the last 10 years, there've been where I've been focused on, you know, the Trump and the Q and everything. There's been times where I've seen something and then I've gone down another rabbit hole, because you can never stop learning about that event. But if you haven't seen it, or anybody out there watching, I highly recommend going back, because after Richard did his, I'd say 45-minute presentation on controlled demolition, he agreed before the show to let me debate him on whether or not any planes hit the towers, because I firmly believe none did, right? And it started with my friend saying they announced that a plane hit like 1 floor below you, 2 floors below you, and they had to announce it to you. So Richard was really gracious, because with the kind of work he does, that's outside the Overton window to say there's no planes, right? The directed energy aspect of it, way outside the Overton window, and he has to stay professional because he's trying to affect Congress. Well, he agreed, and we spent almost an hour debating whether or not there were planes. Honestly, highlight of my life. So I highly recommend everybody goes and watches that.
I did watch that. That's an amazing film, and they're doing some great work. Demolition experts and all sorts of people on that. Two of the best films I watched in my awakening, because I've been doing this same time as you, really, nearly 25 years, was Loose Change, the 3 parts, and September Clues, because September Clues, all that did was dig into the footage that was shown to the people that day, you know, the nose out shot and all these sorts of things. So they were amazing films to watch if people want to watch those.
And you know, it's amazing. One of the first people who was out there was Trump. And if you remember, he was the first one who said, when they asked him, he said, planes can't go through steel. It was like just a one sentence. He didn't go into detail. He didn't. And, you know, but of course, he was more of the man, the city man, like, let's help, let's see what we could do. You know, that's what came more. But listen to his words, you know, at that time. And crazy stuff. My cousin was a police officer at the time. He was special units, and he has the most horrific stories that because you weren't getting everything on the news, but he was down there, you know, he was at the site, and just hearing the stories was traumatizing because it hadn't come out. People were jumping, and and he had so much trauma. It was worse than some people I know that have gone to war. And you know why? Because they didn't expect a war zone. They didn't expect it to be the carnage and the death that like the trauma that it was.
I mean, I just remember the very first thing in the morning when I told, you know, my assistant, go get some dried goods and water and go home. I did the same thing. And I remember going to the grocery store. It was right down the street. It was like a Gristedes or something on 72nd, where you walk downstairs, you know, and in the store, the majority of people were like me. They understood that something happened and you got to go into prepper mode. But then there were people who were just like New Yorkers, like, la, 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 oh, a plane hit, like, no big deal.
Yeah.
And you could see that all of us were in just like a zombie state, knowing like something's happening, and we would pass each other. And you would look at the other person who recognized the gravity of the situation while everyone else was just like getting their Pop-Tarts. You know, we were all kind of looking at each other. And then you go outside with your bags to carry back up your stairs. And there's jet fighters flying over your head, up and down.
Oh my God. Yes.
And then there were armed military in camo on the corners, you know, with machine guns. So all of this happened, it like militarized like very quickly. And just walking around, like it was way more traumatic than I ever could have imagined.
Yeah. I remember that night because they stopped the air, you know, they stopped everything in the air. And I remember, and I was on Long Island. First of all, the fear, like just like that traumatizing fear. And all you heard, because I'm right by the water, were the military jets all night. And it was a cross between feeling freaked and safe. Do you know what I mean? Because we didn't know what was really happening at that exact moment. And it was like, all right, at least we're protected. And it was such it was just, I was glued to the TV the whole day. Like literally I couldn't get away. And the used to, I remember what finally broke, like, cause I was sort of zombied. What broke and made me go hysterical crying, I can cry now, was when the British, when they showed the reactions from around the world and the British played our national anthem. And I was like, that's it. Like, I just lost it because we still didn't know what was going on. But very, very, so many stories, people like you and me, we just have these memories and people we lost. And so we took a little sidetrack there, Stu, but
it's interesting listening to you two, because you guys experienced that. You know, we saw it on the TV.
Yeah.
And you were there. I mean, did either of you get ill at all? Because there was a lot of talk about, you know, what was in the dust and people breathing that in. Did you have any symptoms from that at all? And I'm just going to go down because I've dropped my pen and I can't see where it is, so you can keep talking.
Me, no. I I was, you know, way uptown. You could smell that chemical stuff in the air, but I was nowhere near the dust. I'll be honest with you. I used to go to the Twin Towers all the time before this. You know, when you live in New York and you're in your 20s, every single person you know from high school or college or business, they all want to come visit you because you're in New York, right? So anytime people came, which was often, first thing I did was we went down the Twin Towers, and there, I don't know if you remember, Lisa, there were these two benches. Well, there were a bunch of benches, but those like cement benches between the towers.
Yeah.
And I would always bring my friends there and say, lay on your back. And you'd lay on your back and you're staring up at the towers and they're both above you. And I did that so many times. And after this happened, it was 10 years before I went back to ground zero.
Oh my God, me too. Like me
So-
too. My friend, I had people out of state that I did business with. I was in the business world at that time. And they were like, have you gone down to ground zero? I was like, I was appalled.
There was a gift shop. They had a gift shop.
I was like, why would I
I'm like, I'm not going to ground zero.
to
It's
a
not a
ma-
museum.
grave.
It's not a gift shop.
Right, a
It's hallowed
massive
ground.
grave. I was so offended. And then I finally God, it was, I don't even know my daughter. I didn't even have my daughter. She was like 10 before I went. You know what I mean? Like after the fountains and all that other shit that they built in its place, I couldn't go. And they had the people were going like it was a tourist attraction. Remember they had the like the bridge or whatever that was that people could walk. I could not believe how that's how I felt. Because of course I knew people and you knew people. Like it was so disrespectful in my opinion, like that anyone would want to go see something where people perished that we knew and loved. And yeah, so same as you, I couldn't go for like 10, I was 10 or 11 years before I even went down there.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah. So I guess we'll switch gears a little bit because you really have gone down a lot of rabbit holes, one of which is with this whole weather, the extreme weather. We'd love to talk about that a little.
Sure. So once you start becoming a weirdo, after 2001, Google wasn't, the algorithms weren't a censorship algorithm back then, right? It was designed to get everything in the world cataloged. That was their mission. Right now, their mission has been to curate and control the release of it. But back then, you could find any and everything. So I became, a semi-professional conspiracy theorist back then because you start researching stuff and then you have to learn, because even then, CIA was putting false information out to the signal to noise ratio to confuse you. So you have to start learning discernment because you find yourself repeating something stupid. And one of the things that got me, that I fell for, was harp rings. Remember harp rings? Everyone talks. Anytime, even to this day, you go on X, people are saying, and bigger accounts who I think should know better, they'll see the weather and go, it's not natural, it's harp. I'm like, bro, come on. 2008 is calling and wants its, BS back. Like, get with the times. So I fell for all that harp ring stuff, and I went down all of those rabbit holes. And then something, I don't know, about somewhere between 15 and 20 years ago, I really took it seriously because I started to realize, like, this is Truman Show we're living in. And I think it's probably about 9-10 years ago when I found this one account on YouTube that was obfuscating all of their posts because they didn't want to get picked up by censors. So you'd watch a video, there would be almost no talking, and it would be showing satellite radar and explaining how water vapor generation works and showing you how cloud control works. And you'd have to watch like 5 or 6 of their videos to put the pieces together because they really didn't want to tell a story in one video and have the algorithm pick them up. So I spent years and years watching and consuming all of their videos, and then using the techniques that they showed, I was able to start predicting storms. So I was like, yeah, this is the one. People are like, how'd you know that's going to happen? I'm like, just look at the satellite, do this, blah, blah, blah. And where it got interesting was it like Santa Rosa, one of the big fires in California, because I was studying fires too, like a lot. And because I believe they were directed energy. And this account deviated one time from using the satellite imagery and radar that they taught me how to use. They deviated one time from using that for weather. And they showed how that fire was made by directed energy. And it was like, a 4-minute video. And when you see it, it's conclusive, right? You see the landscape across mountains in California, miles and miles apart, not a few miles, like not this flying ember BS that would tell you. And you would see fire 1 start, instantly from nothing to being full flare, which requires a lot of energy. And then you would see all the fires starting tens of miles away at the same exact time and all flaring up equally quickly. Like, that's impossible. No ember flies at the speed of light and then it automatically ignites.
Yeah.
Well, when that account posted that, they disappeared from like the face of the earth. So they stopped posting on X. Their Twitter account and their website were defaced. Now, if you go to their website, I think it's like drive-by malware. So don't go to it. Like, so somebody, and they never came back. That was maybe 8 years ago, I think.
Wow.
9 years ago might have been their last video. And they haven't come back because they weren't allowed to tell people how the fire started. So, yeah, so all of this got me into the weather stuff. It was crazy because last year, you know, Dave from News Treason and I had been talking. He's like, let's do, you know this stuff. Let's do a weather special and you can, you know, tell everyone how it works. And we had kicked that can for 3 to 6 months. And then finally we were like, hey, let's record it this weekend. He was like, yeah, I'm going on a trip on Friday. I need a recorded show. Let's record it. So we recorded it like on a Tuesday and aired it on Friday. Well, while it was airing, the flooding happened in Texas with that like girls camp that made the sensational story.
Yeah.
That happened like while the show was on air. And the next morning I woke up and you had Lee Zeldin and General Flynn and Marjorie Taylor Greene all tweeting about weather modification and that are these floods controlled. So the timing of doing it was absolutely, you know, God's hands were all over that.
Wow. You know, it's funny you say Lee Zeldin, right? Because he's from New York and he actually made a run for governor. When was it? Last election, not this, the most recent against Cuomo. And I was never really sure. We you know, like locally we'd hear rumors, you know, white, you know, good guy, bad guy, whatever. But it's interesting. He's what, EPA now, right? And so I'm still not sure where I see him fitting in. But do you have any thoughts on him? Just
you know, he's posted some things where he said that, you know, the EPA is going to tell you everything we know about, you know, plane spraying. We're going to put it out there. But in the same breath, he called them contrails, not chemtrails. So I think that that's a little bit of a like limited hangout. So when I did that weather show and Flynn and Marjorie and everybody tweeted about weather, I thought, here we go. And I was tweeting a lot about it and they were getting great, you know, engagement and views. And shortly thereafter, I started feeling my account was back in the shadow ban world. And with Grok now, you can actually find out some stuff if you spend some time and ask the right questions. Basically, Grok was like, yeah, no, your account's been like dropped to the lowest tier. Like you're in the lowest safety tier. I think it's like tier 1 is where basically like they call it not advertiser friendly. But, you know, we all believe that there's more to the throttling than just advertiser friendly. There's a white hat plan where the Overton window for the masses has to be moved in a very controlled fashion. It's a controlled demolition of the Overton window.
Yes.
How many times is like RFK Jr. said Trump takes a bulldozer to the Overton window daily? Because that's what they're doing. And so you can't have guys like us out there. So something changed. They all seeded it, which is funny, cloud seeding. They seeded it, Flynn and everyone. And then shortly thereafter, Grok basically was like, yeah, if you post about that, your account's going to stay in purgatory forever. So I stopped posting about it. I talked about it on my shows. But then with this storm this weekend, it's almost like everybody's a conspiracy theorist now. No matter where you're from, everyone's like, hey, we don't get snow and ice in this part of the country. And 2 days before it happened, look at our skies. And so it's almost like they stopped us talking about it because this potentially is the event that they wanted to reignite the conversation.
You know what's, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, because one catalyst that woke a lot of people up to the fact that cloud seeding was real was when they flooded Dubai that week. And have you looked into that much?
Well, I don't know what the reason was. I did look into that. I didn't look at specific reasons, but my biggest takeaway from the Dubai flooding was to seed globally that weather modification, not only is it real, but that it can literally flood a city. Because that's the part that people don't get. I was saying on I did another weather show last night. I recommend everyone goes and watches it. I had Stormy Patriot Joe, Paul Abs, News Trees and Dave, and Snarkish Dano on, and we covered a lot of stuff, especially about this. But one of the big areas of pushback, I moved to Vegas, and it's 12% humidity, in the summer and stuff. And then they're like, oh, it's monsoon season. And I looked at everyone like, do you hear the words coming out of your mouth? We live in the middle of the desert. It's 11% humidity. Where is that monsoon coming from? Oh, well, we're not too far from the ocean in California. I'm like, all right, so show me the satellite. Show me where all those clouds are forming over the ocean and making their way here and then dumping themselves. Because you can't, because they don't. All of the clouds that come to create our monsoon, when they're basically watering the desert like twice a summer, and it's probably just to keep it controlled, like to keep the landscape controlled. It all comes out of the power plants that are outside of the city. You can watch those smokestacks that most people call them. You can watch them putting the moisture up. They turn into clouds. They cover the city, and then they use cloud seeding to make them dump the rain. It's that simple. And I think the Dubai thing was more about seeding that idea. There could have been a military thing going on. Maybe they have some dams, some tunnels that they needed to flood up. Most of these things have multiple purposes. I don't know enough about Dubai or, their potential underground layers to know if there was a reason for it. Usually there is, but for sure it was used on the world stage to seed that idea in people's heads that flooding is also possible.
Yeah, because it was really interesting after that the fact that the mainstream media started coming out and admitting it, basically, that cloud seeding is real. They were messing about with the weather in Dubai, and look what's happened. So you could put that down to a whiteout operation, couldn't you, quite easily?
And then it makes you wonder, see, this is what I like, what I think. Then it makes you wonder if they're putting it out there for you to be focused on. Is it a distraction, or is it a narrative they want us to believe? Like, I just never know where everything is. And I don't think anybody really does these days. And so you don't know what their real purpose is. Do you know what I'm saying? So
I do. I think everything is both a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Everything is a bit of a distraction, and everything is a bit of seeding a narrative. But and you can be both. They're not mutually exclusive, because when you create the distraction, you're creating noise and chaos in someone's brain. And noise and chaos ultimately break the cognitive dissonance.
Yes, you're right.
And that's what we're seeing right now. The brainwashing, the hundreds of years of brainwashing.
Thousands, maybe.
Thousands, really, right? But at least with the American culture, we've got hundreds of years of very specific brainwashing. How do you get people to break those cycles, break that cognitive dissonance? You got to do the most absurd narratives, the constant distractions. Now everything looks like a conspiracy theory, even to normies, even to liberals.
Yeah.
Liberals are now saying, Trump wasn't shot and Charlie Kirk wasn't shot, and they're supporting the Second Amendment. We're like, we've inverted it.
Yes.
So this is how you do it. So the distraction, chaos, confusion is part of the deprogramming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, because what you said about 9/11 and people getting phone calls and stuff, it was very easy to shut people up in those days and label everyone as a tinfoil hatter. But now it's not easy to shut us up, is it? Because there's so many of us.
Yep. Sandy Hook was a great example of people wouldn't believe me. I could present hours of facts showing that Sandy Hook was a staged event, not real. All actors, crisis. You could show hours and hours and hours, and people, it goes in and out, and they go, well, how did you get a whole town to be in on it? Somebody would have leaked.
Yeah. Or you have people that just they can't get it through their head. Like, they're still stuck in the emotion. Children were killed, hurt, that they can't get past themselves to actually think clearly, right? I mean, at least someone who's saying, well, how do you get a whole town to, at least there's a prospect that they're like, hearing what you're saying. But you talk to parents, they're like, they can't believe you would even say something like that. It's almost like, irreverent.
Oh yeah. There are definitely people over the years that like hate me, that think I'm a vile, evil person. I had this one girl, and she's got, pink, orange, whatever hair. So that tells you enough. But I remember she came at me because every year on 9/11, I do a tribute to my friend Garth on my Instagram and Facebook story. And the part of that tribute is to show the truth, right? So I show Garth's picture and talk about Garth, but then I have this little clips that I do every year that are kind of algorithm censor friendly. I use that technique of not saying much, but the clips I show, any person watches them and I'll get the message. Wait, what do you mean by that? Are you saying that plane is CGI? What are you saying? I'm like, well, what are you seeing? Right. And I had this friend come and tell me, you are disrespecting your friend. You are a disgusting human being. I was like, dude, he went to engineering school with me. He would be so glad that I am remembering his legacy every year and spreading the truth so that there could be actual justice for his death instead of you pink hairs over there doing whatever the hell you're doing. So I've taken the hate and I don't care. I'm here for truth.
None of us care.
Not to make friends.
Yeah. So I got called a murderer about 3 weeks back by a nurse. But me trying to put out, information, and don't listen to what any of us three say. You can take it on board and do your own research.
Yep.
Right? For trying to put the truth out about the jabs.
Yep.
Water off a duck's back because I know I'm on a mission.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
so
I'll tell you how easy it is to get a lot of people involved in a conspiracy. Just think about Father Christmas.
That's a great example. That's the best one there is, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Now, I've done a lot of research on the Vegas, the Harvest Route 91 Harvest Festival shooting. I'm actually going to do a special on that at some point when I pull it together because it's a lot. I have a lot of information the vast majority of people haven't seen. And that's a great example because when I present it, you'll see how many people were involved. But then for people who might have had something on their phone that they didn't want to get out, what happened if you remember, in the couple weeks right after it, there were all these stories making national headlines about survivors of that event meeting their demise, bizarre car accident, heart attack. Like they were telling you that the people who were talking were dying. Now, whether or not that was real, you don't think people who were there, their spidey senses were something's up and they're like seeing people dying are going to just maybe just keep that video on your phone and don't.
Yeah. Like screw this. I got a family. I got
so easy to control people, fear and money. It's that simple.
Yeah. Even with, look at all the different times in the last century, with Area 51, right? Like all those people that there were nurses, there were like all those people that just shut up, or information that got buried, or look at the Liberty, the USS Liberty. Those guys were blatantly told, you will not speak about this.
Yeah.
Or you will die.
Yep.
And they didn't for what? 50 years, 60 years. Like, so that's how you get a lot of people involved, because fear spreads.
It sure does.
Yeah. So did you want to show any little videos at all about a little bit of how they create clouds on the ground or anything?
I could do that.
I think it's really interesting for people.
Let me see where I've got some stuff queued up. This will take me.
Obviously, you went all into it all in detail, didn't you, with Dave and the guys last night? And you did a show a couple of months ago as well, which are great for people to go and watch if they want to really get into it all. But it's just, I think it's interesting for people just to get a little snippet of what it's all about, because it is so interesting.
I've got some stuff from that older show that'll be better, but that might take me a second to
that's cool.
Find it. I don't want to give you all this dead air. Let's see, that was a while ago.
Welcome to everyone in the chat today. Good to see lots of regular faces there.
Yeah. Welcome.
Oh, this might be some stuff right here.
You know, we were talking about 9/11 before, and something like came into my head, not to go back, but someone I know lost her husband. Literally, he said goodbye. I mean, because we had, like, you know, that whole floor that was Cantor Fitzgerald. A lot of the people lived like Rockville Center, Garden City area. That's where I'm from. And I think it was like 2 years later. I could be getting my time frame wrong. Somebody came to the house, her house, and literally delivered like something they claim was part of her husband. Like, that she literally had like a breakdown after this, and I'm thinking, why? First of all, how do you? All that stuff was taken out of there so fast, right? It was put out at sea. So how did you get something? And how awful would that be for someone to get that after you've already kind of tried to mourn? I don't know. It just like came into my head that there's some really fucked up things that went on.
Yeah.
I figured the easiest way, instead of me finding the original clips, I could just pull up that old episode because all the clips are
Perfect.
are on it. Let's see here if this is maybe a good place to start.
Yeah, if you can work that on the full screen, that'd be wicked.
So what I'm gonna do here is this is, why does it do that? Sometimes it shrinks every week. That's weird. And then maybe you'll hold on. Let me find that spot again. Actually, this is perfect right here. Okay. This is sort of the dummy's guide to okay, so I believe that, you know, the Industrial Revolution, right? We charged ahead as humanity without understanding environmental impacts, right? And I believe that the water cycle on Earth was most likely completely destroyed, right? The water cycle is simple. It's evaporation, condensation, precipitation, rinse and repeat, right? So you've got water on the Earth and in the oceans, and it evaporates, creates water vapor in the air. Over time, that water vapor will condense under various conditions, forming clouds. When those clouds get heavy, the condensation leads to precipitation and the rain comes. And that's how the greenhouse of Earth, you know, waters itself. Well, the soil was polluted. The air had all those factories, who knows what they had, but that was stopping the part of the cycle where you'd get condensation, precipitation. The water is polluted. So what happened? Remember, we had a dust bowl in this country, and there was just dry dirt everywhere. So shortly after that, farmers learned about cloud seeding, and they were using silver iodide in their little crop dusters. And if they could find a cloud somewhere, they would spray silver iodide through it. That's a cloud condensing nuclei. What it essentially means is it's a substance that's very hydrophilic. It pulls all the water to it, forcing it to condense, become a heavy raindrop, and fall. So that was sort of the beginning of, like, how do we manage this mess we made? Because we can't have farms if we don't have rain. And over time, obviously, the military got involved because, one, it became probably, you know, necessary for our survival. But two, the military basically knew that weather weapons are the best weapons on Earth. If you can create a storm and put it over your enemy, a hurricane, a tornado, an earthquake, you can destroy your enemy, and they can't prove that anyone did it. So it's the best weapon. So let me just play this little clip that explains the water cycle for everyone, because I think this is disappeared
in the warm sun.
All right, crazy.
Yeah, of course. All right, let's run it. Here we go.
Yep, there's another way water can get into the air. The water on the doghouse roof dried pretty fast in the warm sun. This water disappears faster because the stove is hotter. This change from water we can see to water vapor we can't see is called evaporation. The cloud from the spout of the tea kettle is condensation of the water vapor from the tea kettle hitting the colder air. Condensation. Rain. The hot water in the kettle gives off water vapor to the
This is
air
building
by
trouble.
rapid evaporation, just as rivers, lakes, and ponds give off water vapor to the air by slow evaporation. As the hot water-filled air hits the colder air near the ice tray, the water vapor turns into clouds of tiny water droplets floating in the air, condensation. When the air is quite cold and cannot hold any more water droplets, they collect together to form larger drops, as on the ice tray. And being too heavy to float in the air, they fall back to the earth as rain. Without water in the air, we couldn't live.
This is the good part. They cover the earth, power plants and more.
Always comes down to those patents.
And this is old school, these patents. This just shows you it goes back. It's super simple now. You're muted. It's in
Did it again. I'm gonna read that modification down at the bottom
because
Yeah, worked on for
these things are so this is you who hasn't driven by one of these?
Right.
Power plant, look at it. There's arrays of these all over Earth. That's just the United States.
get it now. People say, hey, it takes too much power to create that much water vapor. Not if it's at a power plant.
Wow.
Now you can see the side view. We've all driven by that before.
Believe it or not, the image on the left, very hard to find lots of images like this on YouTube these days. At least it was last time I was looking. And I wonder if they just, something as simple as this, they want to hide from your eyes so you don't think too much. But you can see it's literally just those little ones. Those aren't even the full WSACs. Look how many clouds those can create and how quickly.
My buddy's in New Orleans area on a work site, and he sends me pictures every day from his work site. 360 degrees around him. There's
from
facilities
afar,
doing
look
this
at that.
all
Now
day,
keep
every
in
day.
mind what you're seeing in the lower left, and look at how it's piling up from the top. This is what it would look like from afar. This is the view. If you look in the center, you can see the steam coming out. It gets obfuscated, but you can see the towers in the middle. And then the really important part is going to be what it looks like from satellite above. So we'll get to that in a second.
All right. So, wow.
Coolers
To some extent, their plants.
And
back
they
when I
weren't
still
me,
but I looked like an idiot, huh?
20% air, crop dust.
Let me see if I can find the part from above, because that's really the final piece. Here we go, some more. Everyone sees it every day and they don't realize what they're looking at. But look there and you can see those clouds are coming up, right? They're shooting up. And once they get up, they use NextRad.
You can see the top shooting out in the upper right, and then the wind is blowing to the left. And what are we forming there? Clouds. And the wind isn't natural either, so they can actually chop those into individual clouds too. Give you that beautiful sky we're so
See the
used to.
plume on the left too, you guys? Because there's multiple towers there.
Yeah, you can see the spout in the lower left.
Clouds did not look like this when we were kids, guys. They didn't have those peaks that they all have now. So those are two towers you see there. They shoot up when they hit the atmosphere. Look at that. They're everywhere. Nuclear plants, power plants, coal plants.
A little repeat here to drive it home. On the right is the satellite imagery of it. Look at what you're seeing on the left and look at what you're seeing on the right and lock that into your memory, because that's going to be very important for some of the next things we discuss. Understanding that when the clouds go up, they're...
Do you guys get that? What you're looking at on the right is the exact same thing on the left. It's just the top view, right? Because when you think about something going up, there is atmosphere and pressure, right? So it hits an invisible ceiling, which is when it's flattening out, like as if you had a clear plastic and you had your kettle going up, the steam's going to hit it and then flatten out. And that's what you're seeing over here on the right, hitting sort of an invisible ceiling there, right? You've got atmosphere and the wind is moving them, and that's why you see them flatten out. But note the bubbling in the center where the plume is still coming up. Note that bubbling in your every day, everywhere on etch Earth, it in, guys. because that's the key to understanding the satellite imagery that I'll show later. You see it all over the screen there. Not just the big one in the middle. There's little ones in the top and the bottom.
Right, right.
And because remember, there's power plants everywhere, big dots and little dots. This is what it looks like in the satellite radar view. See, there's nothing there. The blue represents the water. See, it's just showing up right on cue, right by the towers.
It's like they almost turned them all on at the same time. And now I guess.
So
I have some interesting thoughts on this. So, we know Trump's always said, and watch the water. Trump's always giving us the signs, drinking the water. I mean, there's so many, the Fiji bot, like we could just go on and on and on. So, and in a lot of his speeches, he used to, when he would, when he was doing the rallies and stuff, he would always say, and clean water, like that was always one of the things. So I'm wondering if one of the first steps, obviously, to get the water cycle back to its natural occurring way, which is very key, because obviously if we don't have rain, then we can't grow things, and right. So do you think this is part of the initiative where we're talking about make America healthy again, and a lot of the soil and a lot of these other things that they could potentially have underway, and they're trying to break through that cognitive dissonance to make people realize just how unaware of all this? I mean, I was always unaware. I'd see like steam. I figured they were making something in the factory, right? Like, and the steam is coming out because of whatever. You don't even really think about it. You just assume it's a factory. And then you hear so much out there about how factories pollute the air. So you're thinking, oh my God, look at all that pollution that's coming out, when it's probably just steam. So what are your thoughts on, where we might be or where we're going now that the awareness factor, at least among our community, right? And we're spreading it, and more people with these little, giveaways that they're doing with Zeldin and, Marjorie Taylor Greene. What do you like? Do you think we're moving in the right direction?
I am incredibly optimistic. I even have to try to tell myself to slow down. But the Earth has been, all right, so we used this weather modification after the Industrial Revolution screwed stuff up. But did we fix it? No, we just put the Band-Aid on it, right? We know that the elites don't care. They've genetically modified their crops, so their crops can withstand glyphosate, right? Roundup. And so what do? They spray that stuff like a nuclear option everywhere. Their genetic crops are fine because they're covered with it, but it doesn't affect them. Everything else dies. That's why they don't have to worry about the weeds and everything else. So they're killing the insects. They're killing, and a weed is literally any plant that's not the genetically modified. So everything we eat is poisoned, right? The soil is poisoned. You got microplastics in the soil. You got chemicals. It almost seems like a cleanup job that's insurmountable. But they've got like bacteria and things like that now, where they can put little microbes in the soil that are completely harmless, that will eat the microplastics and convert them to like organic biological waste. So these things are real. Mm-hmm. So I believe that we are terraforming the Earth back to a more natural state. Now, is it immediately fixable? Like, would we not need chemtrails to control solar radiation? That I don't know. Maybe in the future we wouldn't. Maybe right now we still do. But we can clean the soil. We can clean the water. These technologies exist and they've been hidden. So I really do think that we're getting back to Mother Nature. I don't know how long the process will take, but since last year, I believe the White Hats took over the weather grid. Actually, it was on 11/11. What was the year when that we talked about it last night on the show, when that 17-second signal traversed the entire Earth? I believe that was the white hat signaling that they've taken over the weather grid. So,
and I want to just add to that, and Stu and I talk about this a lot, that when we go back to COVID, and there was nothing on the shelves, right? Like everything was gone, and they said, oh, it's because the trucks and everybody's not working and all this other nonsense. But truthfully, I believe, and always did believe, because I was already like deep into conspiracy or whatever, that was a cleanup. That was not because of infrastructure problems of getting products. You think about the products. You had like toilet paper, you had feminine products, you had a lot of the foods. And what was wrong with that? Then whatever it was, 5 months later, you start hearing how there was all kinds of chemicals. And that's why there was this, a lot of women were getting cervical cancer and all these other problems because of what they were putting in, feminine hygiene products. And the toilet paper, the same thing. And I could go on with the different products. And all the animals, all of a sudden, oh my God, there's like, thousands of animals just keeled over and died. And the blowing up of the food plants and this and that. And I just believe that if we're getting this in, the mainstream, so to speak, I think they tell us when it's pretty much almost done, or they're very close to having everything fixed, right? Because it's military operations. So I'm like you, I feel really, really encouraged that we're probably further along than we think. And even with the whole glyphosate thing, I think they probably have that under, like you said, under control, because people walk around thinking, oh, I have a gluten intolerance. I'm like, no, you don't have a gluten intolerance. People have been eating bread for thousands of years. You have a glyphosate problem.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I'm glad you said that, because I do think a lot of the cleanup has literally been taken care of, maybe not finished.
I like that theory. Listen, I like your theory. And like I said, I think everything has, two purposes. While I'm optimistic, I'm not as optimistic to say all the cleanup's been done. So for the toilet paper and the feminine products, my take at the time was, this was, how do you like your free trial of communism? Showing everyone what it's like when you have to wait in line for toilet paper. Because I literally would go to Target and stand in line to get one roll of toilet paper. Right now, I have the industrial boxes in the garage. I don't have to buy toilet paper for 2 years. I would go, I'm like, I'm never going through that again. But the chicken farms absolutely do. I think those were cleaning up poisonous food, right? Yeah. They poison the eggs, they poison the chickens. Yeah. And so, while people are saying, look at what the deep state's doing, they're holding back our toilet paper. We did not run out of toilet paper, right? So people are going to say the deep state is holding back toilet paper just to punish us. Oh, they're destroying the food to starve us, because that is their playbook, is to stop food supply. But in this case, why not have the white hats do it?
5D chess.
Let it get blamed on them. But really what they just did was maybe they wiped out a bunch of the most toxic chicken factories.
Yeah, because there were a lot going up all at the same time, wasn't there? I used to say to people in Converging, actually, I said I wouldn't worry too much about the toilet paper, because if you haven't got nothing to eat, you're not going to be needing the crap anyway. So stock up on the right stuff, the vitamins and whatever else you need. But what were you just saying there about stuff going back into the ground that is probably healing the earth? Because we always talk about, are the chemtrails good or bad? Well, we think they're good now, whatever they are. You can't wake people up to chemtrails if there's no chemtrails in the sky. But
I don't think they're good now. I think they're exactly the same as they've always been. But they've been doing this us our whole lives. So people who freak out and say, oh my God, turn them off, I'm dying. You're not. Human body is incredibly resilient. Stop eating seed oils. Stop eating processed food. Eat clean, hormone-free red meat. Get your good veggies, and your body will do just fine. It'll process us out. I think the chemtrails are necessary still. They're not good for the soil. That's true. And I think that we will do remediation, but I don't think I could be wrong. Listen, I love that theory. You're not the only one who has this too. I love the theory. To me, if they were going to deliver stuff, I don't know that they'd be like chemtrailing like meds for us to like reverse your spike protein. I don't feel like that's the way they would do it. It's possible. I mean, I don't know. Like my shirt said, I don't know shit about fuck, but
I mean, and it could be a combination. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. There could be both of the theories could be right, but I just, and listen, I'm not, but I can tell you, at least here in New York, okay, like I've noticed a very vast difference the last couple of years versus years past, just with the grass. Now, is it just me? Did people take them better care? I don't know, but the color looks more natural. Like, I don't know. There was a time where everything just looked kind of disgusting and dead. But be that as it may, I just always tend to think, and I think Stu kind of agrees with me a little bit, that when the narrative gets out there, right, and we're sort of the first line of defense, if you will, right, the truthers, because we're always primed and looking for things and searching for it, and it hits us first, and they're smart. They know that we're going to disseminate. I think things have already really started, or certain parts of it have already been, done or finished, so that they wouldn't be telling us at that point. That's my opinion. So I happen to think, it is very positive. And that's the other thing with normies. Like, they're like, oh, woe's me and this and that. And you're like, no. And I'll say to them, like, no, believe me, if you only knew how good everything is going to be. Like, not only do they have a problem when you tell them how bad something is and you're trying to educate them, but then when you try to tell them how encouraging and how like prosperous and all this stuff that's going to be happening in our world, then they don't believe that either. So I don't know what they live with, to be honest with you.
Right. Listen, I think everyone should have their chickens and have their own farm and know exactly what they're eating. And it's funny because if you remember when the chicken farms started burning up, right, people started talking that way, right, which would make you think it's white hat. People were getting chickens. And then do you guys remember this? I think it was during like the lockdown era. All of a sudden, people who had small, groups of chickens at their private property, not big farmers, actually big farmers too, but private ones. They were like, our chickens aren't laying eggs anymore. Do you remember that?
Yes.
It was a huge, and then they eventually traced it back to the food from Tractor Supply, which is also like the same company has multiple brands, but it was the one that most people would get. They put some chemicals in there to make the chicken stop laying.
Yeah.
And so when people took that food off, their chickens started laying again. So we've seen this tug of war, whether it's all optics, the actual war, it's hard to know, and it doesn't really matter. But these things have woken people up. Everyone should have a garden. Everyone should have chickens. The world would be a better place.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. I mean, what's your thoughts on full control versus partial control then? Because, we got loads of people.
Yeah, so I'm on the full control camp, but where I differ with some of my friends is full control to me has always been control of the chessboard.
Yeah.
Right. So like I put it this way. Let's say you sit down with a chess master to play. Let's say you're good. You're not a chess master, but you're good. It's going to take one or two moves for the chess master to have sussed you out and know exactly how many moves are going to beat you. Right. They're going to say, oh, he's not awful. I'll win in 6. And for 6 moves, he's going to lose pieces. He still won. He still has total control, but you have to play those 6 moves out. And he knows he's going to have to give up 6 pawns or whatever. And that's what war looks like. So I do think we're in control, but that doesn't mean there aren't still moves on the board to be made.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, and people don't like to think about it, but I denied, I've known the White Hats took control of the weather, but I denied it for a long time because of bad things still happening with the weather. But in a war, some of these floods are going to do things outside of what the media is telling you. There's lots of dumbs. We talked about on the show last night in that North Carolina area. There was lots of satanic ritual abuse on those hills and underground tunnels and all kinds of things. War is not clean, Right. War is hell. War is ugly. And we've been at war. So, yeah, I do think, I think we have total control in that sense.
Yeah, I think there's certainly, there's got to be some collateral damage, haven't they? But they're trying to negate as much as possible. Said this many times, 4 to 6% loss forever, which don't even know what that means. Maybe that's, we are going to lose 5% of humanity rather than 95% they might have done if they'd steamed in. 8 years ago, bosh, this is it. I've started arresting people. It was not the right time, was it?
Yeah. When it comes to that 4 to 6%, I've actually started looking because, Vegas is an interesting microcosm. And, I worked the last decade in entertainment. And, everyone in entertainment thinks that they're all liberal and they all have the right to stand on their high horse and be liberal. Well, what happened is I was a figure in the entertainment industry. Everybody knew me. And I started speaking out very early. People are like, what are you doing? You're gonna lose all your clients. First of all, there are no clients after COVID. They destroyed the entertainment out here. But people were telling me, are you worried? More than half of the entertainers came out to me privately, right? That they're on our side. And they thanked me for speaking up when they can't because they'll lose their job. But the impression is that they're all liberal.
Yeah.
It's been, since 2020, it's been 6 years. I've watched. Facebook is where most of this happens, and I hate opening it, but I do from time to time just to study. And I've seen the number of people who still post. It's getting to that 4 to 6%. In 2020, 2021, maybe 2022, these people would post something, 100, 200 likes, all the
Yes.
comments. Now these people post it, they still think it's crazy. They went from hundreds of likes and engagement to 5 likes, 2 comments, 3 comments, and they're the same people commenting. And now some of these people are even having to drop off. I heard a big guy in Vegas, I don't want to give too many details and be obvious who I'm talking about, had to drop out of social media because he's been crazy. And now people are attacking him because enough entertainers are comfortable speaking out with conservative views. So it does look like that 4 to 6% because they're still on a soapbox acting like everybody's behind me, even though their stats showed nobody cares. And it's the same little group. So there is something to the 4 to 6%. And, I hate to say it, a serious mental disorder.
Yeah. And you know what I've noticed on social media too, Stu, I don't know if you've noticed this or you, Mark, there's so many more people that we were told were so liberal, the Hispanic community, the Black community, and the way they are speaking out, and Trumpers, and you have to wonder, did they come over or did they feel empowered now that they can say it because there's enough people? Because I mean, here in New York, you literally had to be careful. Someone would wreck your car. They, like you didn't want to put a sign out, so. And especially if you were in some of those communities, right? What they were merciless to other people. Oh, Uncle Tom, the names they called them. So you have to wonder, all these people now are coming out. They're making TikTok videos. They're on Facebook. And they are so awake and so aware of what the plans are and pro, Trump and MAGA and all of that. So that speaks huge volumes. Were they always not of that belief, or do they now feel they can come out and say it?
I mean, that's a great point. And that's a very hopeful thing.
Yeah.
The thing that bothers me is as I'm studying the 4 to 6%, a lot of them are not, they're not that smart, right? But they may have a good job or have some visibility. But if you know them, they're not that smart. But the other half of that 4 to 6% are the elite educated, often some of the top executives. And I know some of them well. I went to the Ivy League, right? I have lots of friends from these schools. They are the most susceptible to the brainwashing.
Oh my God.
Because they were told.
Lawyers, accountants, doctors, you can't get through to them because they are so entrenched in the matrix.
Well, so there's 2 sides to it, I think. So the first one is where I give a lot of grace. And I say, look, you're working a professional job. A lot of times these people are working 60 hours, 80 hours a week. They only have a moment to get their news from CNN or MSNBC before they go to bed. So I gave a little grace there. Like, you're just not informed. You don't live the life like we do, where you get the freedom to research everything all day. Although that excuse, the grace, it does have a time limit because, guys, everything's available. And if you don't know it, you're just lazy. But the other side of it is deep and psychological. These aren't beliefs. This is a belief system, which is tied to your identity. When your identity is based on a belief system, which started early, right? The fact that these people wound up in an Ivy League, there's a path to get there. And by the time you're there, they exploit it, and your identity becomes you're elite. You're in the hardest school to get into. This, you want to stay in the elite circles. This is how the elite believe. And so these people think they're, smart farts smell like roses because they're so disconnected from reality. And so you can't just tell them, here's the facts, you're wrong. They have to change their entire identity, who they think they are. And that's why this narrative, I think, is getting so absurd and crazy, and the chaos and confusion like we were talking about, because eventually it's going to break the cognitive dissonance on a bunch of them. And some of them are going to stay. Like the people who have doubled down the most are my Ivy League friends. And it scares me, man. Like some of them will attack me. I'm like, whoa, how many boosters do you have? Like, you still won't admit that all these people who died were from the shots. You're going to die on that hill, because some of them are going to actually die on that hill. It's crazy.
Well, you say Ivy, but let me kind of broaden that, because I think it's anyone who, I'm going to broaden this to professions, because even if you didn't go to an Ivy, but you're a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, somebody that's in the financial, or especially people in the financial world. So regardless of where they went to school, they're still operating in that system. And I deal with a lot, because as a coach, I've done a lot of networking, and I tell Stu every time I come back from a meeting, I'm like, I can't do it anymore, because they are so entrenched. But like you said, think about the snowball effect. You're a tax attorney, you're an accountant, CPA, right? What if you're trying to tell these people that income taxes is going away, they're not thinking, wow, I could be making a hell of a lot more money if I don't have to pay taxes. They're thinking, because their identity is so wrapped up in their profession, well, I'll be out of business. That can't be so. And they literally fight to defend the tax system.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, why would you defend your cat? They have like Stockholm syndrome.
It is 100% Stockholm syndrome. You're totally right.
So that you're like 100% spot on about the identity. When an identity is so entrenched in you, something has to happen major for you to break free of that. And that's everything. Like, that's what I do with coaching. It's about identity. If you believe you're a fat person, you're going to keep gaining weight no matter how many diets or how much you change. You have to start changing the belief system that I am really a thin person. And even if I need to still shed 50 pounds. So these people I feel bad for them, because it's going to have to hit them very hard in the face.
I mean, it happened to me when I was 28, and it was a direct result of 9/11. I had, when I had the PTSD, and I actually started to use drugs, which is something I'd never done in my life. Like I went sideways. I was a wreck, but it was Phoenix from the ashes. I had to look myself in the mirror, and at 28 years old, say, you're not the man you thought you are. You're not who you are. You're not who you said you were going to be. You're almost 30. You had an idea of what you're going to be at 30. You're not on that path. And I was on a good path. I was working at Price Waterhouse and Booz Allen in Hamilton, making big money in New York, but I still wasn't the man I wanted to be. And when I realized that, I think by having had the trauma and the 9/11 and really just kind of destroying my ego through physical abuse to myself, I had the opportunity to start fresh. But without that, like somebody who's in their 40s, 50s, maybe 60s, and their whole life is based on that, to go through what I went through at 28 was really hard. To go through that now, and you got 3 kids and 2 houses, and one of them still has a mortgage and whatever, like that's a hard thing to be like, hey man, your whole life is a lie. But I went through that at 28. I said, your whole life is a lie. And so figure it out now. That's a tough thing to do, man. That's a tough thing to do.
It is.
Oh, yeah, I do believe that pretty much everyone in this truth movement that is, looking at spiritual sides and better eating and stuff, every one of us has suffered some sort of traumatic event in that past that has been a catalyst to our awakening. 100%.
Has to be, because something has to shatter within you. And it's interesting you say that, Mark, because most of us who have come through, like we had that, and you do shed the ego, because now I'm not a psychologist, and I don't understand all the specifics, but what is clear is that the ego is, when you let go of that, And unfortunately, it doesn't happen in most cases till people are older, right? And that's the other thing. If we all start to get a lot of wisdom collectively, 50 years old, 55, right? When you really like, you're not a kid anymore, you made your mistakes, you know, then wouldn't it be amazing that then if we lived for another 2, 3, 5, 800 years, the things we could do. But as soon as you get wise, and now you got it all together, your relationships are good, you understand where you made your mistakes, then they kill us, you know, another, 15 years, 20 years, like now you're dead, you know, because of all that they had done to us. And it just makes me feel so sad, but also so excited that that's what we're meant to do. This is still our childhood. Like until you're 50, 60, I believe, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you're not mature yet. You're just coming into it. It's a rare person that has it together at 30, right? And then the things we could do, you know, and the joy that we could have in our lives that we maybe screwed up when we were younger because we didn't have the wisdom. So that's what they want, to get us out of here fast when we're like 70, 80 years old.
We ain't going nowhere. 100 is the new 70. Let's be real. It's and listen, I'm not gonna rag on modern society, but you know, if you look back to like Viking days and stuff, you know, a young man by the time he's 7, 8 is already practicing with like swords. Right? By the time he's probably, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, he may actually be using those. Certainly by the time they're 20, they have watched their friends die at the blade. They've saved their own lives, taken lives. That makes you grow up pretty quick, right? Today, everyone is coddled. You know, you got generations sitting in their parents' basement playing, you know, Xbox still. So we don't have those hard lessons. So part of what's happening right now are those hard lessons.
Yes, by design. They kids can't, you know, the economy, but don't even go to the Viking days. Go back to the 1950s. They were still teaching how to take care of a gun. You know,
yeah, but I like Vikings, so I'm always going to go back.
Oh, okay. But I'm just saying, it's not that long ago that they started, you know, the kids were learning, they were driving, right? There's no such thing as like you have to be 17. As soon as you were able to get on a tractor, you were able to get in a car. What were you, 12, 13? If your body was big enough, right? Some boys are big. You were driving. So they dumbed everyone down to this situation, which I hope we start to, you know, now start to turn around a little bit. But yeah,
I think it's all turning around.
Yeah.
The biggest part of it, isn't it, is that it's not the radical left on that side and the nutters on the right. It's all the people in the middle that are still quite comfortable. You know, they might have gone through convict, but it hasn't affected them. We talk about, is it going to be a financial collapse that's going to whip them in the pocket to wake them up? But all these people that are currently living in their bubble, I'm all right, Jack, it doesn't affect me, looking the other way, until that lot sort of get on board. I know you only need a small percentage, but I think a lot of people are awake, but just not engaged. And that's the problem. And everyone needs to engage. We the people.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Yeah. Should we talk about Q a little bit then? Because you were on the boards when Q first dropped, weren't you? I've heard you say, because you were.
I was there for the very first drop. I was researching the Vegas shooting at the time.
Yeah.
When you're digging, 4chan is a very common place to land. There's lots of foreknowledge of events. So I was on 4chan a lot because the Vegas shooting was 10/1. Q came out 10/28. Okay. So I was on the chans doing all of this research on the shooting. And then I don't know how I stumbled on this little nugget, the first Q drop. And I started reading it. I'm like, oh, Hillary Clinton is going to jail. I'm like, hooks are set. The hooks were set. Lead me. And I think that's why they did that, you know, the way they did, because it was juicy and got everyone in. But so I was immediately like, what is this? And I just, you know, I was glued to those boards from that day forward.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know about 4chan when it started. I was watching X22 reports. So I'd heard about the drops, but it was like I really started engaging when it was, qmap.pub. That's where I used to get all my.
Yeah, but now we use, QAG.news.
Yeah.
That's our good buddy Phil QAG. He's got a great site.
It's amazing. You can spend hours and hours and hours on there going through all the different, little bits and pieces of it. But yeah, it is. I mean, how important do you think this Q operation is in the whole scheme of things?
Oh, I think it was one of the most important operations in history. And it served a purpose, which was to activate the masses, sort of that civilian military adjacent digital soldier pool that Flynn talks about. Certainly he has actual digital soldiers on the payroll of the military, but we are also those citizen journalists that he's mentioned, right? None of that would have happened without the Q operation. So if you think about it psychologically, and you want to start this thing called Q, you have national security rules. So you can't tell anyone, you can't give anyone anything specific to prove that you're really part of the military, or you're going to violate national security rules. But you want everyone to know you're real. How do you do that? Well, you go to the playground of some of the smartest puzzle solvers, which is the Chans. Now, the Chans, they do a lot of shit talking. They do a lot of LARPing, right? And I think everybody knows what LARPing is. It stands for live action role play, which is the guys in the park who pretend they're Renaissance people in costume. But the digital version of that is creating a persona that's fake and a story that's fake and trying to fool the other smarty pantses into thinking you're real. So if you are on a Chan, you LARP a character and the other people believe you, it's like, haha, I'm smarter than you this time around. And so around and round the LARPing goes, just having fun with friends, trying to see who could fool. So Q goes on there. What's the first thing they do? This is a LARP. You're a LARP. You got all the biggest brains, all the autists trying to prove the Q's a LARP. Well, guess what happened? They couldn't.
Yeah.
They couldn't prove it was a LARP. So now it's got credibility. And you saw once that core fermented around the Chans, it spread and it spread. Reddit and Vote and so, and then Twitter and then YouTube, and boom, you got a Q movement. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And I've got a lot of friends that are, wide awake, but still don't look at it, don't understand it. And it's got to be the basis, really, of a lot of people's investigation, because it is so amazing. I know we still don't fully understand it, and we're not meant to because of the information, misinformation, disinformation, but it is absolutely outstanding to be a part of.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we were studying Epstein 2.5 years before he made the headlines. And I remember I was sitting like at a dinner party with some friends, and then Epstein makes a headline and people bring it up. I'm like, oh yeah, Epstein. And then I'd start rattling off everything about, how do you know all that about him? We just heard about his name for the first time. Oh, long story.
Yeah.
Long story.
You want to hear a funny story? During I guess it was the 2020 election, right? And, I'm not going to say who it is, but I have a relative who's sort of like, she's an expert on everything. I say that in quotes. And so she was asking me where I heard something. It was like right after the election, and she said, did you hear it from this one? Did you hear it from that one? And I said something about Q, and she goes, oh, I'm so sick of Q. This was 2020, whatever. I'm so sick of Q. And she never really read it. She just like heard about it. She goes, they haven't been right about anything. And I was laughing because I'm thinking to myself, like, you just heard it. You probably heard a few sound bites of things that were said. It's 2020. If you even understood what was going on, you would realize that this is so much deeper than you could even imagine. And that if it is all happening, like all this stuff is happening, of course, nothing is going to have come full fruition yet, right? That's the whole point. We're watching this. And I just laugh because it just brings you back what I call the Ozempic, mentality. Like if something doesn't happen in 1 second, well, I'm out of here. It's not like you have to nurture it. And so people that we've taken like a lot of abuse, for the fact that we follow this, but I'm talking about by the normies, not our community. And I just don't talk about anything anymore with anybody who doesn't really do their research, and that's the other thing. It's like we do like 11 million hours of research. They read a soundbite and we don't know what we're talking about. So it's just like, why even talk to them? Because it's just a very frustrating situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as things start to unfold, don't kid yourself. These people are going to know. Well, this lunatic that I know actually said this like 4 or 5 years ago.
That's what the seed planting's all about. You might not be able to red pill them and wake them up, but you can plant seeds all day long so that when these events come out onto the surface, they're going to go, he said that 6 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Some of my haters, by the time 2023 rolled around, I was getting calls from some friends in entertainment who disagreed with me. They were technically part of my hater posse, but they were still my friend, you know?
Yeah.
But they'd be at these parties that I was no longer invited to, and my name would always come up. And then when 2023 came around, he'd be like, Mark, your name's coming up again. He goes, only this time it's good. He's like, everyone can't figure out how you knew all this stuff. They all wanted you to be crazy. They really desperately wanted you to be crazy. And you're right about everything, and it's blowing us away. And I was like, well, you know. Yeah. But those friendships are hard to restore after a while. But that's God telling you who's coming forward with you and who's not.
Exactly that. I mean, I said before that I was getting banned from, you can come to dinner tonight, parties or whatever, but you're not allowed to mention the Illuminati or any of these other things. You know, it's just.
I got that too from the good friends. Is just Mark. No, they would say, Mark, no politics.
Mm-hmm. No politics. That's how
no
they
politics, no conspiracy theories. But other people just said, you're not vaccinated. You can't come.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, good. I don't want you shedding all over me anyway.
No. Perfect.
Yeah.
Now,
can I just ask Mark one question? You mentioned before that, you know, that you were touched by the Holy Spirit. Like, could I just ask you a little bit about that spiritual part of your awakening and growth? Because you said like a lot of that fundamentalist Christian attitude and judgmentalness kind of turned you away from God, but then, you know, you had an experience. Was that something that you'd mind sharing with us?
No, not at all. I mean, I'll give you the quick version of it. My testimony takes like an hour to tell. So
Sure.
Done it on a few shows. So if people want to find it, it's out there. Essentially, it was at the end of COVID. I'd been locked down in this chair for almost 2 full years, right? COVID out here was really bad. Our governor was doing the demoralization campaigns where they'd open you up for a week or two and then be like, oh no, too many cases. We got to close. Like, that's even worse than staying locked down. It's showing you gay purry and then putting you back in your cage. And so by the end of the 2 years, I had pretty much lost my mind. I decided to build an entertainment business in Vegas because it's the entertainment capital of the world. So for the first time in my adult life, I put all my eggs in one basket. I've been consulting for almost 30 years, lots of industries, lots of specialties. I said, I'm in Vegas. I'm going to put all my eggs in entertainment. What could go wrong? Oh, I don't know. The entertainment capital of the world closes for 2 years and entertainment globally doesn't exist. That could go wrong. So by the end of it, I was really an identity crisis because I had made that my identity. It was actually interesting. It's the second time that I had to crumble my identity. But I had one client left and was doing big festivals. Even though they were closed for those couple of years, it was a 10-year-old company. He managed to stay afloat and he was paying me every month. Only client that would pay me a check every month. So it was kind of the only thing I had going during COVID. And then he called out of the blue on Monday, 7/11/2022 at 3:30 p.m. to tell me your contract's over. It was like 5-6 years I'd had that contract. Selling the company, your contract's over. Well, that was kind of a turning point for me because that was the last, you know, steady paycheck I had. There was no work in entertainment at all. Everything was closed for 2 years. And so I regressed. All of my adult growth, personal development I worked on was about to go out the window. And I was about to say some really awful things to him. I saw red. I'm Sicilian. I think you understand what I mean. I saw red.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Started getting in my New York voice. I was ready to, you know, I was ready to, hey, you know what you did? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And as I started to say something horrible, as the words started coming out of my mouth, I was covered with a soft white light, like a cloud.
Mm.
And I instantly went from anger and rage to joy and hope. It filled my body. It was the most real thing. I've been skeptical my whole life, thought I was an atheist, and it was certain types of people that I think really turned me away from the church. And I judged the whole of Jesus based on, first of all, you shouldn't judge Jesus based on any church. A church is a building and religion is a structure, and structures and buildings are made by men.
Yeah.
And Jesus is the Son of God, right? So that kept me away. But in this moment, all skepticism, all doubt was gone, because there was nothing I could tell myself to explain away what happened. And I got off the phone with him. I didn't say anything bad, nothing. God stopped all those words from coming out of my mouth. And I said, you know what? Good luck. I hope the business goes well. Stay in touch. And you could tell he was shocked, because maybe I spoke in tongues for a second when I was trying to like hold back the bad words, but he was expecting it. And then when I said, good luck, stay in touch, he was like, whoa, okay. And I got off the phone and I just looked straight up right here in this chair. I looked straight up and I said, God, I know that was you. And I heard you. You didn't just take anything from me. You created space for something better. And I was like, that's it. I surrender. I'm tired of being a stubborn Italian who knows better. You showed me, so now show me. I said, I have nothing left. I have no income coming in. My identity as the entertainment guy that I've spent 10 years in Vegas building, it's gone. I'm in your hands. And 12 hours later, well, 3 hours later, the first event happened, but by 12 hours, a series of events happened that there's no odds that these would happen. This was 100% God. And by 12 hours later, my life was completely born again, new, and it pushed me to where I am now, working in these circles with great people like yourself. And it happened in 12 hours from surrendering to God.
Beautiful.
Wow. That is
Beautiful.
absolutely
touching. Over this, like, last 5-6 years especially, we've all been through a lot of emotions, and I don't really get sad about sad things anymore, but it's the happy stuff and the hope. And I still watch Joe and the Plan to Save the World and tear up when I'm watching that. But one of my very, very favorite moments over the last few years was watching you guys on the Dave's calling show, Friday night calling show, and Bria phoned in. And I've shared it so many places, that 21-minute clip, but it's watching you guys and the emotion coming out of you guys and the hope and the happiness in that 20 minutes. Do you just want to, that was an amazing call-in, wasn't it? Do you want to just describe how you felt listening?
I feel like you can describe it better than me, honestly. I was just blown. First of all, you saw it. The emotion was real. It was an incredible call. But what really blew me away that was a year ago.
Yeah, about that, I think.
Yeah.
To this day, I'll look at my notifications and somebody else is resharing it and it goes again. That same post, it just goes around. So that resonated with so many people. It was pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was like just in the right place where she needed to be to she just shed so much light. Like that was just no accident whatsoever, right? She just was messengering so much to us.
Yeah, it was exact right time, exact right place. It had maximal impact, and I think a lot of people needed to hear it.
Yeah.
It reframed it. There's nothing wrong with people having hope. Hopium is an extreme version of it, but there's nothing wrong with having hope. And I think that brought a lot of hope to people who maybe hadn't thought of that angle of things.
Yeah.
And it gave them a new lens to look at the world through, which probably made the last year a lot more digestible to them.
Yeah, and we've had many things happen over these years that sort of reignite your passion. And oh yes, and
Exactly.
remember when Trump walked away and we all thought we were going to have a Scooby-Doo ending, they were going to whip Joe Biden's mask off and all these things. Trump went and we all deflated for a bit, but then in came this all the discussion about devolution period. Oh,
Yep.
We've had so many things.
It's been an incredible journey. I honestly can't believe I got lucky enough to be part of this. This was truly God, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm in this movement because of that day. And I've been a conspiracy guy, for 25 years up to that point, 26 now. But it was, it was God that said, no. You're not just some weirdo who spent 25 years learning this stuff so you could be a weirdo. This is real information that it's going to be valuable in the new earth.
Yeah.
And who would have thought that the research I did as a weirdo is something that I can do, I can get paid for, and I love. Like, I love sitting here talking with folks like you, and it's a joy. And I was a weirdo for doing this, for knowing this. Yeah. And now it's like an asset to God's army. So God is good all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly that. And I mean, at least when I do it, it's just sheer passion. And it's not like I'm doing work, because I'm constantly, if we the people have got to, come together and unite as one, you have to work on yourself first. So it ripples out into the collective. And, we're all getting there, So, I mean, obviously no date fagging or anything, but have you got any predictions for what's coming, what we're going to see?
So no date fagging, but please date fag.
Yeah, if you like, please.
Let's call it markers. Let's call it potential markers, because that doesn't date fag.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're gonna have a cool little build up to the 4th of July. We'll have some milestones. I don't want to predict exactly what or when, but I mean, we've seen the banks lose control of silver and gold. So we know that the new financial system is up and running. The crypto obviously is going to be a big part of all that. And I don't know when that gets officially turned on, but fiat central banking is dead. It's over. The world colluded with white hats, Patriots, and Trump to do a little Trojan horse so that, the cabal didn't even see it coming at first. BRICS. I think BRICS was the first Trojan horse. Yeah. Oh, no, don't throw me in the briar patch. BRICS is going to destroy the U.S. dollar. Don't do it. Well, guess what? That's the point, because it's not a U.S. dollar. It's not sovereign. It's not national. It's not ours. It's not gold-backed. It's debt slavery. It's indentured servitude to the cabal through their bankers, and it's over. So I don't know when or how this kicks in. I imagine it can't be like turned on, because you're going to demotivate people. It's not going to be, sorry guys, it's not going to be Nazara Jazara. You're not getting $1 million back and all your tax money back, but you are going to get a lot of money, I believe, in incentives that will turn America back into what it once was. I believe startups and innovators will have access to government funds for businesses. You have to be vetted. We can't have any more learning centers, or whatever it is. I believe that young people in their 20s will be re-incentivized to fall in love, buy a house, and start a family in their 20s, something they've purposely been priced out of, and they've been emotionally, men and women separated. You've got a crisis of female loneliness and the incel men. Like, they did all that social engineering. I think that goes away, and you fall in love with someone and you're 25 or whatever you are, and now you can get a house because home prices are going to come down. Guarantee there'll be some government something for first-time home buyers who are starting a family. Well, guess what? You don't have to save for college anymore, because the American Academy will be a reality by then. So now for 18 years, you can have that house. You can have that life. You can have the vacations. You don't have to put away $500,000 by over 18 years to put your kid to college, because that's what it would have cost.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to have to pay for health insurance. I really think the government's going to cover. I mean, the money they're showing us right now in fraud, like, $7 billion in this one little part of Minnesota. What? They're showing us that even aside from the sovereign wealth fund, aside from the tariffs, we already have the money to pay doctors what they deserve and to cover people. Like, that's not socialism. It's not coming from our tax dollars when it comes from the government's profits, right? Don't forget that. Tariffs and sovereign wealth fund is profits. The government's essentially a corporation, and we are employees, and we're getting a benefit. Not to be confused with the corporation. The corporation
right.
is now defunct. But I think all of this is coming. I think it's fundamentally going to change the U.S. I think it would be pretty cool if something did happen with Canada and there was no more border there, Because wouldn't it be nice to get a little vacation home up in all that vast untapped land? Canada's cool. Besides the liberal nutters, you know, the Albertans, I love Canada. I'm a comedian, right? All the great comedy came out of Canada, you know? So I'm not going to give specific predictions because, you know, that's not really my thing date wise. But I just think that the world's going to change starting soon in ways we can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful that the 4th of July will be a rollout of something big and exciting. What? I don't know. Probably the end of the Fed, maybe the end of the IRS. That would be a good time to do that.
Yeah.
And
that doesn't include all the patents and, you know, other ways that we're going to benefit. I mean, if you're talking about energy, right? I don't know what you guys in Vegas, but here in New York, we turn on a space heater and, you know, your electric is crazy. The gas is crazy. So, I mean, like you said, maybe you're not going to get these big checks, but all of a sudden you know, what it costs to live is going to go down, you know,
way down. Energy prices are going to drop.
Yeah.
And I'm sure sooner than later we'll have some form of wireless energy. I hasten to use the word free necessarily, but you know, General Steve Quast, he's been on my show. He's made the rounds on a lot of people's shows, and he's constantly talking about how you're going to be driving in your electric car, and it will be charging itself remotely while you're driving. Your phones will charge remotely. Yeah. I don't think that's happening necessarily tomorrow, but we're on that path.
Yeah, yeah. You were going to say something, Stu? I'm sorry, I jumped in there too quick.
I was going to say something. It's just gone completely out of my mind. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I know things are interesting at the moment, but every day now, something else happens, doesn't it? Pretty much. You might get a little bit of downtime over a weekend or something when they're not doing secret bombing raids. You know, with this, and we don't know if they lifted Maduro exactly when they told us it happened, or whether it was showing us what they'd already done. But I do think that's going to be a massive part of it. And I think election fraud is going to be a big catalyst of what's coming. Certainly.
Oh, yeah. I think Maduro will be on. I think Maduro will testify.
Yeah.
About Smartmatic. I absolutely think we'll hear from him, or he'll, you know, he turned state's evidence one way or another. They didn't bring him over here for nothing, and they certainly didn't kick down, blow up the bedroom wall to get him. He was sitting there in his sweatsuit and his Crocs with his bag packed, waiting for his transport from the U.S. at a minimum, unless he was already out of there. But you know, the 4 sweatsuits in one day was a signal to us that all is not what it seems.
Well, exactly. And when people find out about elections are stolen in the US and potentially 71 or 72 other countries, then they're going to start going, well, how did they steal the election? And then COVID's going to come into the picture, and that is going to be a wake up.
Yeah, it's what I keep saying. Every narrative is converging. I had David Clements on a week or two ago, and I was saying how every crime is converging too. It's really becoming just like crime, like fraud, crime, whatever. Like give it one word. Like shops went to a mall, and then we had mall, and then mall went back to becoming one store called Amazon, right? So everything converges to one thing, and the only way people can really grasp what we do, because we're not normal, right? The people watching us right now on a Monday morning, we're not normal, and that's not bad. Like normal just means normal.
Yeah,
normal distribution.
No, it's a compliment.
But people can't grasp the things we grasp because we put a lot of time into this. So how do you get the normies on board? Well, start by making all the crimes one crime, because election fraud, gang violence, Maduro, all of these things, drug cartels, they're all becoming one thing. Who would have thought the election fraud would be tied to that? Like, well, we would, but would normies see it? Oh, wait. So that fraud also connects to, so the daycare fraud, the Leering Center fraud. Wait, that connects to election fraud too? Oh, interesting. Crime. It's just air quotes. Crime. Everyone can digest whatever aspect of crime that resonates with them. And they don't have to now put 400 things in their head. They can just glom onto whatever part resonates with them and come along on this journey with us. But the narrative convergence has been really fun to watch. Like, what a brilliant military plan we've been witnessing.
So brilliant.
Oh, it's beautiful. And I think it's almost 630,000 sealed indictments now. And it's all RICO. It's all linked, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah. Cool.
It's amazing. So I
Cool.
wanted to just mention that Stu and I, we're doing an event here in New York called the Awakening Summit. And that's going to be taking place April 25th and 26th. And I'm just going to put out, just an open invitation, because we're trying to build a little bit of the alpha male presence at
You're
this
doing it in New York City?
it's actually Nassau County. So it's going to be in Lynbrook. So it's not.
Okay,
In
I know Lynbrook.
Yeah. So we're doing it there. We've got, I'll send you the flyer and everything. I don't know if we have that handy right now, the website, but would love you. Stu and I are going to be the MCs.
Me too. I'll help promote it for you. And I mean, if I can, I'd love to get out there. I'm glad it's not in the city. I don't think I'm allowed in the city anymore.
Yeah. Well, a lot of us don't really go to the city that are here.
I would not
anyway.
want. I haven't been back to Manhattan since I left.
Yeah,
Not
but
once.
Lynbrook's nice. Nassau's nice. We're only about a half hour from Kennedy. Love to have you as part of it's going to be a 2-day event. Got some cool people coming in. So we'll send you some more information. Like I said, we're going to be your masters of ceremony.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Brilliant. Oh, I've only got a couple more things to ask you very quickly. So, are you doing much comedy now? You do a bit of stand up, don't you? Are you doing a few events?
So last year I started Parallel 8 Media. The year before that, I was working with the Patriots, helping Patriots Network with my good buddy Scott, Live Free or Die Fighting, co-hosting the original 40,000 Foot View. And at the beginning of last year, Scott got a great job. He's getting married. He's like, you can have the show. And I decided to take the leap of faith, and I started Parallel 8 Media solo with 0 followers on like Christmas. And right after that, I really didn't perform much anymore because I was podcasting 5 to 9 times a week between everyone's shows. Last year I went all in. I was on air all the time. I made no money, so I'm trying to get back to being like a responsible adult this year, but I had a blast. So I didn't do a ton, probably did like 3 shows, but the previous year I did a lot of shows. And this year I think I have like 2 shows booked. Like if a friend calls me and it's something and they're going to give me 15 or 20 minutes, I'll go. But going down to a club to do an 8-minute spot, driving a half hour each way, I get to be funny on my shows and get to scratch that itch that way.
Yeah, brilliant. And I just wanted to ask you, how was your little trip down to Mar-a-Lago? Because you all went down there with the gang, didn't you?
I didn't go with the gang. I went a couple weeks after.
Oh,
they were different trips. Yeah. I got invited to cover it for the America's Future group, the Flynn group, and I was pinching myself, like, am I really in the president's house right now? Like, I'm at the president's house. People think it's like a hotel or something. It's the president's house,
right?
It's a really nice house, but it's a house. And you're walking around like, what is happening? I interviewed Peter Tickton poolside.
I saw that.
At Mar-a-Lago. He just walked up. He realized I was filming. I was like, do you mind coming on camera? Gave me like 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How is that real life? How did God not make all of that happen? It was It was absolutely incredible. It was an honor to be there to represent America's Future. Love those guys. And it was everything you'd think Mar-a-Lago would be.
Yeah, beautiful. Maybe we'll all get an invite there one day, when all this comes out. I do believe the White Hats, and whoever, they watch everyone. You don't have Trump watches who or whatever, but I'm sure they all sit there. If Trump hasn't been out in Cheyenne Mountain for a while, I'm sure he's watching everything.
That's true.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Anything else, Elisa?
No, this has been such a joy. Thank you so much for coming on. And
you guys are great. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you.
Thanks for sharing so much. And if you could come out this way, that would be brilliant. But either way, thank you so much for your willingness to support it. We're really trying to wake people up in this area. We have America First Warehouse out in Suffolk County, and they hold a lot of events. I know General Flynn's been there. Stay Awake America. They've had some events, and we did an event in October called the New York Awakening Summit. But there's just so much that needs to have light shed on it, that people that just have Like they feel that there's something wrong with the country. A lot of them are patriots and awake, but a lot of other people, we're trying to pull them in too, and these are just average people that with the right, especially with the way things have been going for men. And I feel very passionate about this. They've just completely demasculated men. We need men like you and Stu and that alpha voice who can, just call it the way it is and not be ashamed, and all this nonsense with toxic masculinity. You guys are the protectors, and it allows females to be female. It doesn't mean we don't have a voice and we don't, we can't be warriors, but we need each other. And the war that they've caused between men and women is just absolutely disgusting. And we need to give that power back to men, because ultimately that empowers the family and so much else. So we're trying to bring a lot of men together for this event, and we have some wonderful women as well.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, definitely send me all the information. If I can be there, I will.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on so early too.
Yeah.
If you come on again, we'll do it a few hours later for you.
Yeah, I got to get my second coffee now. You can hear my voice. Like, hey, give me a coffee.
And I just want to say, obviously, Elisa and I, we've had so many channels deleted over the past, but all our links will be in the description of this video. But the one channel we're trying to build is our new Rumble channel, really. And we're getting a lot of traction there. So if anyone could like and subscribe to that, that would be wonderful. That would be absolutely amazing. Patriots across the pond. And there we go. Thank you so much for coming on, Mark. You're a legend. Keep doing what you're doing. And where we go, one we go all. Yeah.
Where we go, one we go all. Appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for everyone in the chat for being here. We love you. Take care.
This is the difference between the power of our Creator and anything else, particularly evil. That you can go into a pitch black room full of evil, full of darkness, and light a little candle, and instantly that darkness flees. But you can't do the opposite. You can't go into a well-lit room full of truth and wisdom and righteousness and joy and health and harmony with the universal power. And you can't take any amount of darkness and go into that well-lit room and have any effect whatsoever. That is the metaphor which I frequently think of when I think that I'm not empowered. It is the greatest lesson for me, and I think for everybody else, to know that we're on the winning side and that we win in the end.